Hello everyone, I'm back with a video today sharing some ideas as to how we can use the backgrounds that I made last week. So here are the two backgrounds that I created, and I'll leave the link to the video in the description box below showing how I made these for anybody who hasn't seen it. And I've got some news for you. I have also finally got around to opening up an Etsy shop. This is a blown up copy of the background that I had done, so I'm going to put one of these on, and I'm also going to put some of these on too, so that for anybody who doesn't want to have a go at creating the backgrounds themselves but likes the idea of the projects that I'm going to be sharing over the next few days, you can just pay a minimal amount and download one of these yourself via my Etsy shop. I think they're £1.50, which is just over $2. So again, I'll leave the link to the Etsy shop in the description box below. It's got a few other backgrounds on it, and I will be adding bits and pieces to the Etsy shop over time. I'm always conscious of postage. A lot of my viewers are overseas, and postage to send abroad is just ridiculously expensive, and so I'm trying to find ideas of things where you can just download them and use them as many times as you like. You download one of these for £1.50, I think it's about $2.20, something like that, and you can print it off as many times as you like. So I'm going to be working on some of the copies I had done a few days ago. I took the prints down to my local printers and I had them photocopied onto mixed media paper so that I could experiment and use them over and over again. And I have cut them down into some ATCs, and I've also got a couple of art tiles. Now the art tiles were an accident. Let me just grab my piece of paper for you. The photocopy, the original piece measures 7 inches by 7.5 inches, which cut down is 6 ATCs perfectly. And I cut it to 3.5 inches this way instead of this way by mistake, and so I'd ended up with just a few little scraps left over. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to save the ATCs and we'll make those another day. I'm going to upload a video for you every day or so until I've exhausted my ideas. I think I've got 4 ideas for ATCs and the art tiles. So let's start off with these. Now the art tiles that I'm using measure 2 inches by 1 3/4 inches, and as I say, they're printed on mixed media paper, which I take along to my printers. I take it off the spiral rather than tear it out, just so that it goes into their printing machines without jamming, and they're quite happy to do that for me. But these are not stable enough. I want to make art tiles, glossy art tiles out of these. So what I need to do is glue these down onto some cardstock. So I've got some scrap cardstock here to my left-hand side, and I am going to use a glue stick for this. Wet glue will just buckle your pages, and the trick is to just make sure that you get really close to the edges, and a glue stick is absolutely fine for this. No need to use anything any stronger. You could of course use double-sided tape if you want to, and again, another little trick for you. So let me just glue this down. So I'm gluing that down to my cardstock. Grab a piece of parchment or deli paper and just burnish over those edges, really focusing on the edges, and that will just make sure that it's nice and secure for you and it's not going to come unstuck. And then I am going to cut around the edges, getting really close. Let's use a larger pair of scissors here, just using the edge as a guide. You can feel it with your scissors, so you can get nice and close. I'll trim all the way around the edges, and then I'm going to repeat this. I'm going to glue it onto another piece of cardstock. And this is 300 GSM cardstock that I am using here. So again, bring that piece of deli paper back. Again, focus on the edges, getting really nice and close. I'm nearly at the end of this glue stick. Good job, I went to Costco when I took Alex back to Leeds at the weekend. There we go. And again, just repeat that process. Bring back, let me just move that out of the way. Bring back the scrap cardstock. And give yourself a border as well. You don't want to get up too close. Give yourself a border, and it makes it much easier to cut. So again, just burnishing, concentrating on making sure that those edges are nice and securely glued. And then again, just trim around the edges. And again, as I say, you can just, get the bits and bobs off your scissors, make it easier to cut. Use that as a guide, and I'm going to go all the way around. So my tiles are now glued down to 2 pieces of 300 GSM cardstock, which is nice and thick cardstock, and so they feel nice and stable. But you can see that I've got white edges, so I'm going to use some Stays On ink in Midnight Blue. I'm using blue because, you know, I've got lots of blue going on in the background. Any permanent ink would work for this. And I'm just using a makeup sponge just to go around the edges, just to disguise that white and just frame it slightly. I'm not doing my usual really thick border. I'm just, you know, my aim here is just to get rid of that white. And as soon as I've done this to both pieces, you can see that both are cut out now. I'll be back. So both of these have been inked around the edges, so that job is done, and I'm going to be working on a small breadboard. You want something firm to work on when you're using dimensional glue, because it's going to take 3 or 4 hours for it to set completely, and maybe even overnight before it's completely hard. And you want to move it out of the way, out of harm's reach. For me, out of Louis's reach, because I don't want him coming and, you know, plonking himself down in the middle of the glue. Let me just put those to one side a minute and talk about the different glues that you can use. I've got several here, you can see. My usual go-to is Glossy Accents, and I've only got a tiny bit left. Glossy Accents is really, really good, but I do find that you get lots of bubbles with this glue. Easy enough to pop if you're just using a pin, but it does bubble up quite a bit. DecoArt do one, DecoArt Media do liquid glass. The lids come off here. Let me just put that back on. Hang on a second. There we go. This stuff is brilliant. You don't get any air bubbles at all, but it's just incredibly hard to squeeze out of the bottle. And what I think I will end up doing here is just trimming some off the top of the nozzle just to make that opening slightly bigger. I don't know whether you can see there, just because it's just so hard. It hurts my hands. I don't suffer from any arthritis or anything, but this makes my hands hurt big time. But it's brilliant. It's much thicker than Glossy Accents or the other two that I'm about to talk about now. Diamond Glaze, which is a Judykins one, is very similar to Glossy Accents. The bubbles, you do get fine air bubbles, especially when you're starting off putting it down. Easy enough to get rid of, and very easy to pop with a pin. So I like this. In fact, I think I prefer this to Glossy Accents. And then you've got Mod Podge Dimensional Magic. Now, I've had problems with these. I ordered this from Amazon, and the first one came with a split in the collar of the tube, and it just leaks everywhere. So I contacted them, and they sent me another one out. And that one also had a split in the collar, so, you know, clearly there's a batch problem here. So I decided that, I got my money back, by the way, and I decided that I would decant it into this little bottle here. Now, I tried this last week, and I just got so many air bubbles, it was just ridiculous. So I'm going to try it again today, because it seems to be working fine now. And I think it was because I hadn't given it long enough after I decanted it into the small bottle. So I'm going to try this first on one of these. And if it doesn't work, then I will clearly tell you that this stuff is no good, but we'll see how we get on, and I shall resort to the Diamond Glaze if this doesn't work. So I'm going to take the lid off, as I say, working on a hard surface so that I can move this out of the way. You do not want to shake this. Once you've got air bubbles in this, it's an absolute nightmare, and you've just got to stop. And in fact, here's an air bubble to start off with. Let me just grab a scrap piece of cardstock. This might not work. I might know. You see, this is just, oh, hang on a second. Let's try it. If I get air bubbles this time, I will never use this stuff ever again. But I've heard good reports about it, so hence I want to persevere. And what I am doing here is just working from one side of the card to the other, filling in all of the gaps. And it's self-leveling, but you do want to make sure that you cover the whole of your piece of card. Okie dokie, so the verdict. I would not recommend Mod Podge Dimensional Magic. It's just bubbled up like mad again, and can you see the amount of air bubbles in this bottle? I don't know, as I say, whether it's just because of the bottle I am using, but you know, I couldn't do anything with this one because the collar is absolutely split, and I've never had that problem with any of the others. So I would recommend, this one's absolutely fine, by the way, no air bubbles in this one. I've got loads in this, and you just can't pop them. There are just too many. I've tried smoothing it out with a pin. I would recommend Diamond Glaze, or the Deco Art Mixed Media if you've got very, very strong hands. I'm going to have to do some more fiddling around with this. I'm going to try and alter the tip, and you know, when I've done that and I've tried it, I'll let you know how I get on. Or of course Glossy Accents. So I'm going to put these to one side to dry. They're going to take several hours to dry, and as soon as I've done that, I shall be back. And so here's some I did a few days ago, and these have had several days to dry. This is the one that I did with the Deco Art Mixed Media Liquid Glass, and I don't know whether you can tell, but the finish is much thicker. It's just lovely, it really is, but hard work. And then this one was done with the Dimensional Magic, and you can see that I've got a couple of air bubbles, and then these two were done with Diamond Glaze, and this gives a really good finish. And somebody left a message on the original video I did where I asked for your idea, saying, why don't you turn these into fridge magnets? These would make perfect fridge magnets. You just apply a bit of the magnetic strip onto the back, and away where you go. I think it comes in a large sheet, so you can just attach it to size. It's black. I haven't got any, but I may well order some. Or you can make little tiny cards, and I just think these are really cute. So let me just find some supplies and I'll show you how I did this. Here we go. So I've just got a piece of scrap watercolour paper here. I'm just using scraps, and then I've got a piece of white cardstock, and I've applied some of the red double-sided tape. It's just called red double-sided tape. It's incredibly strong, and if you key it into eBay, you'll find loads of the stuff. It's quite inexpensive. This is 5mm width, or in fact it's 0.6 of a millimetre. I think it's a quarter of an inch, and so I'm just going to take the tape off like this and attach it to my watercolour paper. Let me just stick that in the bin. There we go. And so I am just going to attach this to my watercolour paper. Let's just line this up. There we go. That will do. And then I've got another one of these with some, there we go. I've got one of these, and again I've attached some double-sided tape onto this. You could, of course, use your Pritt stick. I'm just using this because it's quicker. You need to, if you're going to use a glue stick for this, because this is dimensional, you need to weight it down with something to make sure that it's stuck properly. And I think I would be inclined, if you're not going to use double-sided tape, to use school glue, white school glue for this, a wet glue, something just a little bit stronger. So there we go, and doesn't that make a cute little card? So we've either got fridge magnets, or you can send them out in Happy Mail just as they are, and you know, leave it up to the recipient to make something with them. This one's smaller than this one, just because that was the size of the scrap watercolour paper I had left over, but I just think those are really cute. And so, as you can see, I've just added some of the Tim Holtz Chit Chat words to these, and again I've added some of the dimensional glue just to give them a bit of shine. I love these. I think these would make lovely fridge magnets, and I must look into purchasing some of the magnetic paper, tape, whatever you call it. I think you can get it on eBay, Amazon, that type of thing. I don't think it's too expensive, but I really do like the idea of having these little mini cards as well. I just think these are adorably cute. So as I say, I will be back over the next few days with some more ideas. Artist trading cards are coming next. I'll leave the link to the original video showing how I created the backgrounds for anybody who wants to have a go at creating the backgrounds themselves. But I will also leave the link to my Etsy shop for those of you that want to dive straight in. Let me know what you think as well. Do you like the cards? Do you like the magnetic idea, the fridge magnet idea? Do you have any other ideas for these minis? You know, please do feel free to share. As always, I would really appreciate a thumbs up if you like this and you found it helpful. And let me know what you think in the comments below. Take care everyone, and I'll be back very soon. Bye for now.